Let me not mince words. This is a racial crime. If it were happening in another country, we'd call it ethnic cleansing. Explain what you mean.
Flint is a majority black city. This is a very poor city. Officially,
but they weren't trying to hurt them. I'm just saying in terms of ethnic cleansing.
I don't believe there was a Wanna-See conference where they sat around the table and said, hey, what should we do today? Let's poison Flint.
Right.
But what they did do is they made a decision, just like the car companies, just like lots of people, where they go, what's going to cost us more? Putting the $7 part in the car or the lawsuits we're going to get from the accidents it's going to cost. Yeah. This is a cover-up. It's fraud. It's a version of manslaughter now because we have 10 people that have died from Legionnaire's disease, 87 cases. Well, the doctors now are saying, yes, it's connected to this Flint River water.
And many people involved in the situation say, you had reason to know that there was problems with the water and you didn't act on those, you dismissed them.
There were problems right from the beginning, and let's be clear that there was a bait and switch with all of us here in Flint. We had a state-appointed emergency manager by Governor Snyder come in and take control of this city in December of 2011. And after City Council and I expressed support for a new water supply to Lake Huron, the emergency manager went behind closed doors with the State Department of Environmental Quality and decided to use the Flint River as an interim source, made the budget changes and put that in place. Now, once that happened, I was receiving reports from the Department of Environmental Quality and our city staff that the water was testing comparable with Detroit. That was what our community had used for so many years. But tragically, it's proved to be untrue. The State Department of Environmental Quality admitted in October that they did not properly enforce the Safe Drinking Water Act from the beginning.
Right.
So
the residents,
all the problems we were having throughout the months were all part of this underlying problem that wasn't identified until much later.
But residents say as early as May in 2014, they were giving reports, they were coming to your office, to the agencies of the city, and saying, this is wrong. June 12th, city officials reveal they're treating the water with lime in response to complaints. Right there, I think that ends the ability for plausible deniability. Once you knew you had to treat the water at all, why didn't you own what was clearly a problem, become outspoken, and get after it?
Yeah, well, in retrospect, I wish I would have done that. What I did, because I was getting skeptical of what was coming from the State Department of Environmental Quality, I was communicating with Dr. Susan Hedman at EPA Region 5, who you just mentioned, resigned. It was explained to me that the situation in Flint and the complaints, especially of Miss Leanne Walters so tragically, that that was under review by the EPA, and when a determination was made, that would be communicated to the Department of Environmental Quality, and then it would come to the city of Flint. And I'm learning, like everyone else, what was actually happening behind the scenes through the emails, through other conversations with the state and the feds, and it was leaving this community betrayed and being poisoned.
Michigan's Department of Environmental Quality shoulders much of the blame, what a preliminary task force report calls an abysmal public response. At the time, the state agency told Flint it didn't have to add an anti-corrosive agent to the water, saying it was not necessary until 2 6-month monitoring periods had been conducted. In other words, they were willing to wait a year to see whether the water was safe. All the while, highly corrosive river water flowed through the city's lead pipes, leaching lead and other dangerous metals into the water supply, and what came out of the tap in many homes was toxic. Almost immediately, residents started complaining. Their water was brown. Some people developed rashes, became sick. Early tests revealed fecal coliform bacteria. So the city and state officials added chlorine to the water supply and told people to boil their water. Both mistakes which can actually increase the level of lead.
I built this place with my tax money.
At city meetings, residents were repeatedly told the water was safe.
We found the worst lead and water contamination that I have seen in 25 years, and believe me, I've seen a lot.
Residents didn't find out about the lead until this man stepped in. Mark Edwards is a Virginia Tech researcher who tested the water early last year.
It was very scary to see the levels of lead that were hazardous waste levels of lead coming out of her tap water.
That's right. The lead levels in one home were so high, water from the tap could be considered hazardous waste.
All right, so let's talk about the Flint, Michigan water crisis. So in the first section, I want to talk about lead poisoning. So here it says, lead is a very strong poison. When a person swallows a lead object or breathes in lead dust, some of the poison can stay in the body and cause serious health problems. So now here's a list of complications and symptoms. But what really stood out to me was reduced IQ. And when you read these news articles, you're going to continue to see reduced IQ and behavioral problems being highlighted. So, are there any treatment for lead poisoning? Yes, there is. We have a procedure known as chelation therapy. They can use activated charcoal, and they can use a chemical called EDTA. Now, what can be expected after treatment? Well, adults with moderate exposure usually recover without complications. However, in children, recovery can take some time, and even low lead exposure can cause permanent mental impairment. So here in CNN it says lead poisoning drops your IQ, it affects your behavior, and has been linked to criminality and has multi-generational impacts. Now I know some people are going to say that I'm pulling the race card when I say this, but the fact of the matter is the Flint, Michigan water crisis is targeting a poor majority black city. When we look at these news articles, we see that the main focal point is a black person. Now, we look at Al Jazeera, we see a black man there. We look at CNN, we see a black mother and her daughter. We look at RT, we see a black man, always the center of attention. In this CNN article, we see the black female as the center of attention. But forget that. Even if you say, hey, I've seen some articles or some news clips with white people, the fact of the matter is when we look at the demographics, we see that it's 57% black, right? And in this website, it says 55% black. Now, again, I'm not saying that whites are not going to be affected by this water crisis, but I am saying that if you're white and you're living in a poor majority black area, yes, you're going to catch hell. Yes, you're going to be affected. That's just the way it is. But the fact still remains that this is a majority black area. Now, the question is, would Flint crisis happen in a wealthier, whiter community? Well, let's read this article. Here it says, we've had a city in the United States of America where the population, which is poor in many ways and majority African American, has been drinking and bathing in lead-contaminated water. And the governor of the state acted as though he didn't really care, Clinton said. Snyder had requests for help that he had basically stonewalled. I'll tell you what, if the kids in the rich suburb of Detroit had been drinking contaminated water and being bathed in it, there would have been action. Alright, so let's now talk about some things that you need to know. So first up, a 2011 study on the Flint River found it would have to be treated with an anti-corrosive agent for it to be considered as a safe source of drinking water. This is in 2011. Adding that agent would have cost about $100 a day, and experts say 90% of the problems with Flint rivers would have been avoided. But Flint residents say they were kept in the dark for 18 months until a local doctor took things into her own hands. And below we see the doctor, her name is Dr. Mona Hannah Atisha. Okay, so she basically came out and spoke about it, and they ridiculed her and said, you know, she's crazy. Let's move on. So Flint, led at a time by an emergency manager who was appointed by the state to help solve the city's fiscal woes. This is all about money. They're just trying to save money. They don't care about the people. They switched water supplies in April 2014 in part to save money, which the email showed amounted to $1 million to $2 million a year. For almost 5 decades, Flint drew its water from the city of Detroit's water system. Now, I gotta tell you guys, Detroit's water system is not much better because they're talking about lead, but they're not talking about fluoride. Now that's a whole different topic, but fluoride is just as bad as lead. Okay, stick a pin there. Keep going. But concerns about high prices from Detroit helped lead to the switch. Again, high prices. They're just so concerned about money. We don't know where we're going to get this printed money from, right? We don't know. And again, at the end, I'm going to really go and spaz out because I got to tell you guys that the black African Americans, you guys are going to be turned into real life zombies. When I say zombies, I'm not talking about the living dead, nothing like that. I'm talking about passive, docile, subservient, low IQ. They're trying to dumb you down. They don't want to kill you guys off. In the past, I thought, why don't they just kill black people? They don't like black people so much. Just kill them off and just have the whole planet to your damn self. Get it over with. But they don't want to do that because you're making them so much money. Now they're making sneakers for $17, your Jordans, $17, and they'll sell it to you for $500, and you guys go out and buy it, right? So they don't want to kill you. You're making them too much money in the prison industrial complex. Slavery didn't end. They just kind of just transformed it. You're now a slave in the prison industrial complex. You're now a slave as far as consumerism. So they don't want to kill you. They want to dumb you down. Dumb you down as much as they can. And in my next video, when I speak about Zika, we're going to go into how they're going to transform black Americans specifically to real life zombies, including poor whites. So you poor whites, you're going to be included in this, okay? So let's continue reading. The city's mayor at the time, Dane Walling, this is a white man. I know you guys see this black female. She just recently got elected, but they're using her as a scapegoat. Look, it's a black woman, and you have idiots online like this clown named David Carroll. It's a black woman, because he's just trying to find anything he can to blame black women. That's a different topic. I digress. But let's continue. The city's mayor at the time, Dane Walling, encouraged leaders to toast the switch with a taste of the regular, good, pure drinking water the governor's emails show. So, who has been exposed to lead? Anyone who drank city's tap water was exposed to lead, but children are more susceptible to lead poisoning than adults. So I want to read this passage here. It says, the message shows that from the moment Flint decided to draw its water from a new source, the Flint River, officials were discounting concerns about its quality and celebrating a change meant to save the cash-starved city millions of dollars. From 2011 to 2015, Flint was in state receivership, its finances controlled by a succession of 4 emergency managers appointed by Mr. Snyder's administration. The upbeat mood lasted for months, even as residents began complaining about the new water's foul odor, odd color, and strange health effects, and began showing up at events with jugs of brownish water. So now, is there any safe level of lead in the body? No, there is no safe level of lead in the body. So now, when did state and federal governments intervene? It says it wasn't until January 5th, 2015, that Snyder declared a state of emergency, and January 12th that he mobilized the National Guard to assist with distribution of bottled water and water filters. And then we have President Obama finally declaring a federal state of emergency in Flint on January 16. This is your so-called black president, the magic mulatto, right? The Sambo president. So now, what does the federal state of emergency mean for Flint? Well, some $5 million in federal aid will be freed up to immediately assist with the water crisis. But now it's too late. So here it says, what does the federal state of emergency mean for Flint? It says some $5 million in federal aid has been freed up to immediately assist with the water crisis. The problem is it's a bit too late. Hundreds of thousands of people have been drinking this poisoned water. Children, pregnant mothers, and the list goes on. How are you going to reverse this? Where is the articles about giving people therapy? Where is the articles about compensation? This is multi-generational. So here it says in this speech, Snyder promised to release his emails from 2014 and 2015, which may fill in some details of how he lost his way. Now the problem is this guy's a friggin' idiot, because you mean to tell me we have to wait for you to give us the emails? I mean, it shouldn't take that long. I mean, it should take about no more than 24 hours to get the emails and send it out. But, you know, of course, we know emails can be forged, so I don't trust him and I don't trust the emails he's going to provide. It's just a big joke. Now, let's talk about endorsing Hillary. All right, so now let's look at this article. Now, if you guys are not aware of who this person is, this is the current mayor of Flint, Michigan. Her name is Karen Weaver. And so she was quoted saying Hillary Clinton was the only candidate, Democrat or Republican, to reach out to us and ask, "What do you need?" Weaver said. "We want a friend like Hillary in the White House." So I told you guys that Hillary Clinton will be the next president. I'm telling you, they're setting it up right now. Just look at the title. Mayor of Flint, Michigan chooses a presidential candidate. They're setting it up right now. We even have Eric Garner's mother endorsing Hillary Clinton. And then we even have Planned Parenthood endorsing Hillary Clinton. All right, so let's go into a section I call Making Connections. So, again, this is the governor, Rick Snyder, and then we have the mayor, Dane Walling. He was the mayor that was in charge during the Flint, Michigan water crisis. This mayor that you're looking at now, Karen Weaver, she just came in November 9th, 2015. She just came on the scene. And now she is the scapegoat, it seems. But we will have people like Erin Brockovich, who is praising Flint Mayor Karen Weaver. Now, again, I'm not saying that she's 100% at fault, but to praise her, I wouldn't say she deserves any praise. She didn't really stop the crisis, you know. She did what she could, but praising is a bit much. Now, this whole crisis reminds me of the movie Purge. Now, unlike the movie, the elites in real life do not want to kill outright the poor and the minorities, especially Black Americans, because you guys are making them too much money. You know, in the past, I thought, look, this racism is so bad, why don't the white Americans just either kill blacks and get it over with, or just ship us all to Africa and just be done? You have the entire United States to yourself. You know why they won't do it? Because you guys are making them too much money. Right now, they're making more money off Black Americans than in slavery. Because you see, they have monopolized all the technology. They can create all the things that you love. The Pradas, the Lamborghinis, the PlayStation 4s, the Jordans. And speaking about Jordans, those Nikes and Jordans cost $17 to make. And you will go to Modell's, VIM, Dr. J's, Jimmy Jazz, and you will spend up to $300 on the sneakers that cost $17 to make in China. You have become a consumer slave. They don't want to kill you outright. They want to just poison you and just lower your IQ and make you dumb, a living zombie slave. This is what they want to do to Black Americans and poor whites. And this is what they're doing. And guess what? If you don't go to school, don't get your education, and you try to, go in the streets and make money, they got a prison industrial complex waiting for you. So now you're going to become a prison slave where you're going to be making license plates, cabinets, shoes, clothing, you name it, you're going to be making it. And they're going to be paying you pennies. They are making too much money off you guys to, as far as this movie goes, to, select a day where they're going to purge. They don't want to purge you guys. They just want to dumb you down. But it still reminds me of this movie because this is really a purge. They're dumbing you down and killing you slowly. This lead poisoning is multi-generational. And they still haven't touched the fluoride epidemic in the water. They haven't touched it. They're just completely ignoring it. You got fluoride in the water and lead poisoning. Okay? Also reminds me of the movie Cabin Fever because in this movie, the victims were drinking poisonous water and they got a virus from it. This is basically what they're doing. Poisoning the poor and the minorities. Making you a living zombie in the sense that you have a lower IQ, you're docile, you're subservient, you're non-aggressive, You're very passive, and they got you so occupied with video games and the movies and trying to pay your bills that you won't have time to sit down and figure out what's going on and how can you solve the problem. Now there's this virus they call Zika, and allegedly it came from Africa again. You guys think I'm pulling the race card. I'm not pulling the race card. They're pulling the race card, continuously pulling this race card out of their pockets. So now we have this virus called Zika, and it's spreading across the country, specifically targeting Black Americans. Here it says, Zika virus outbreak likely to spread across Americas. And as you can see, one of the side effects with the Zika virus is that the children would have small heads. You guys think this is a joke. You guys think because I'm making connections with movies that, oh, you're crazy, it's not really that. No, this is serious. This is war. They're actually gonna dumb you guys down. Not gonna kill you outright. It's too easy, it's no fun to just kill an entire race of people just like that in a split second. It's like, okay, all their money is gone. They need you guys to continue to buy Mercedes, Lamborghinis, PlayStation 4s, Xbox. And again, nothing is wrong with these items, but you guys don't know how to make them. You guys are dependent on other people for all the stuff that you love. So even if you protest and march a little bit, they'll give you a very half-hearted apology, and Black people have such a short attention span, you'll just sit back down and laugh and just forget the whole thing and go back to being a damn consumer slave once again. This is the cycle. This is a cycle. This is why I said that this is war, and when I do a video on the Zika virus, I'm going to specifically speak about that. I'm going to go more in depth on how Black Americans and poor whites are going to become real-life zombie slaves. That's my video. Thanks for watching, and until next time, this is Conspiracy Dude. So I know some of you guys are wondering who will be the next president of the United States. Some of my family members have told me that they're going to vote for Bernie Sanders. Unfortunately, the truth of the matter is Hillary Clinton will be the next president. And this is really easy to predict when you know what to look for.